We've got lots still to come on the programme. Food, lots of conversation actually today about food. And we're told we could go ahead, of course, this year and have a merry little Christmas last week. But for many of us, the hopes were dashed by being placed in Tier 4 restrictions or having a Christmas window shortened. But if you've planned ahead, you may have already bought your turkey and all the trimmings, and now find that you have enough food to feed an army. And, I know that Jimmy was talking about that this morning, when there's just perhaps one or two of you to feed. So what can you do with all that excess food? Well, Sarah Divall from Hubbub, an environmental charity which tries to reduce food waste, joins me on the programme now. Sarah, thanks very much indeed for joining us this morning. It is slightly, unusual, and things have changed quite dramatically. Regardless of the restrictions, many of us end up with, a lot of extra food this time of the year. How much of it actually gets wasted?
Yeah, I mean, this is a problem every Christmas, and just potentially slightly worse this Christmas, as people have got a fridge full of food and then actually nobody coming over. But every year at Christmas in the UK, we waste about 2 million turkeys, the equivalent of about 74 million mince pies. So it's a really, really big issue anyway, because I think a lot of people buy more than they need because they're worried about shops being closed and not being able to kind of pop out and get something, and they want to make sure that they're really stocked up, but then end up in a situation where actually you don't have enough space in your freezer to store the things that you have left over, or actually you've just cooked too much food for the people that you have coming round.
Yeah, because you don't, the worst thing you could possibly do is run out of food. So, that's the other reason why certainly we end up with a lot more food, because you think we don't want to run out of anything.
Yeah, especially this year when, the shops are going to be shut because it's the weekend and it's Christmas and people are panicking and wanting to make sure that they've got enough in, which is, totally reasonable. And I think all of us do it. It's just about making sure that there's a plan for what happens for all of that food if you end up with loads left over.
Instead of wasting food, what can we do with it? I mean, aren't we fairly good at, using up the leftovers?
Yeah, so this is the thing. We've got to make sure that we actually use up the leftovers. So, even if you're really tired on Christmas Day, make sure that you kind of bung everything into the fridge so that you can deal with it tomorrow. And then you can use that to kind of whip it up into other recipes. And you can freeze all of those things. So it's not a case of, having to eat turkey sandwiches for 12 days after Christmas, but actually you could, take any turkey that you've got left over, pop it in the freezer, and then you can use it a few months later. It will keep for quite a long time, as long as you label it so you know what it is and when you put it in there, and you can use it, in a few months' time, and maybe you're craving turkey rather than just after Christmas. But it's just about really making sure that you've got a plan for what happens to it afterwards. And especially now, if you planned for 10 and actually only 3 people are coming round, just take a look at how much you actually need, what you might have left over, and see if there's any way that you can redistribute it to either neighbours who might be self-isolating and they can't get out to the shops for some reason, or to organisations in your area who are accepting donations for other people.
What about, you mentioned freezing. It's a great tip, but are there things that you can't freeze or don't freeze as well, perhaps?
You can freeze most things, and especially at Christmas time. So if you're looking at your kind of traditional Christmas dinner, all of that will go in the freezer. So the main thing I think is that, the turkey and your pigs in blankets, you want to make sure that all of that, because, meat has got a really big environmental impact, but it's also probably the most expensive part of a lot of people's Christmas dinner. So it's a really good idea to make sure that you make the most of it and get everything that you can out of it. But, your vegetables will freeze. You can put your roasties in the freezer and then have them again another time. And the roast potatoes are the best part. So why would you want to waste them?
Yeah, there won't be any wastage of roast potatoes in this household, in our household, that's for sure. Because, no, forget it. That's just definitely not happening at all. If you had to choose one thing, Sarah, that your biggest tip, what one thing would it be?
It's really boring, but it's just a plan. So, just like you did before Christmas when you were working out what you were going to buy, do the same thing now if you've had to change your plans. Have a little bit of a replan, work out what you've got in your fridge, what do you need to eat now that's going to go off, what needs to go in the freezer, and what do you need to give away. And if you can do that, every day for the next few days, so you don't end up with, the dreaded salad box full of salads that has gone a bit grim, then that will be a good thing for everybody.
I have to admit, I've never heard of a salad at Christmas, really.
I was thinking about the things that potentially people might have bought to kind of tide them over through the week.
I see.
You
I
know,
see.
your bag of spinach you've got in the bottom of the fridge that will be forgotten about inevitably over the next few days.
I've got to ask you, what's on the dinner table for Christmas for you, Sarah?
So we've had to do a little bit of a replan because I'm in London. So we've, we all thought we were going home to our families, but actually staying in London. So we've managed to scrabble together a kind of vegetarian Christmas dinner.
And don't laugh at that. I'm a vegetarian, and it's always really difficult. I have everything else apart from gravy, which I can't stand. I have to admit, I'm really sorry, and the meat, but everything else is bearable. So enjoy, Sarah. Thanks very much indeed for joining me on the programme. If you do want to find out more, have a look at their website. It's hubbub.org.uk. That's hubbub.org.uk, and there's quite a lot of information on there about having a sustainable Christmas. If you're looking for some more tips and things, how you can create change, what other sort of stuff that they're involved in. But yeah, and if you've got your own tips, will you let me know as well, please? If you want to share some of your tips on how to make sure it's a greener Christmas, more environmentally friendly one, where you're reducing that food waste. If you've got any top tips that you can share with me on the programme this morning, will you do me a favour and give me a call? Do it now.